Titans, go!
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, aka Titan Talk, the Doom Patrol podcast. We're back on a special Thursday evening edition of Titan Talk this week because, there was some little tiny holiday you may have heard of. Some of you, a couple of you may have heard of, called Easter. So we kind of took our normal Sunday off. And I'm Charles Skaggs, by the way. You're co-host, and with me, of course, is my other co-host, Jesse Jackson. Hi, Jesse. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. As we record this, it is April 25th, and all over the internet,
Yes.
at least for a small section of people, no, not the Gotham finale. The internet is going crazy for Western Stars. A new Bruce Springsteen album is due out June 14th.
I don't think that's what they're excited about tonight.
Okay.
I kind of think they're more excited about a certain Marvel movie that debuts tonight.
That
should
could be.
Out watching
Yes.
if my spouse was more inclined to go out on a Thursday night instead of a Friday night. Not that I'm bitter or anything about it.
I have my ticket for Saturday morning.
Okay.
I'm
So
excited.
you're even later than me.
Yeah. But,
Yeah, we're going tomorrow night. We're going to go see, obviously, we're talking about Avengers Endgame.
Yes.
Which all advanced reviews that are of the non-spoilery version
Yes.
seem to say really sticks the landing. So I'm very happy to hear that.
I am too. I worked from home today because we had a couple of repair guys coming to the house, and so I pulled up Infinity Ward on Netflix,
Right.
and had that rolling in the background while I was working, to kind of as a reminder of what's happening. So
Yeah, Lori and I watched that last night as our refresher.
yes, so that was fun. So
All
good.
right, so yeah, before this turns into the Avengers podcast,
Yes.
let's get back to Doom Patrol. And so here at episode 30, we're going to talk about Hair Patrol. And this was a very interesting episode for a number of reasons, and some good, some not so good, and we'll talk about that. This was Doom Patrol's 10th episode as we hit the 2/3 mark of the first season. So next week we start heading into the home stretch, and this was released just several days ago now, April 19th, 2019, written by Eric Diedel, a new writer to the series, and directed by Sally Richardson Whitfield, a new director to the series.
Okay. I am not going to hold that against them.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and hit us with your initial thoughts.
I think this was the first miss of the season. I guess they were trying to move the story ahead and giving us a backstory on the chief and why he became so secretive and his background with the Bureau of Normalcy, and then we did get to see what happened during last episode when when Cliff was in Jane's world,
right.
mind. We get to see what happened.
As I postulated that we might get to see that. Yes.
I did not like anything about this episode whatsoever. I mean,
so basically, this episode here of Titan Talk is going to be me talking to myself.
No.
Charles, what did you think about this? Well, Charles, let me tell you.
I will share. I just think it's a swing and a miss.
Okay. That's fair.
And so as we get through, I'll tell you in details why I didn't care about the episode. So, what are your thoughts? Quick thoughts.
Well, my quick thoughts is I agree with you in the sense that this was my least favorite episode of the season so far. I don't think it was quite the miss that you seem to feel it was, but I do think that it was obviously lacking something, and I think it was mostly because of the normal Doom Patrol team dynamic.
Yeah.
It was the key part of this. Now, there was a lot of backstory, and there was a lot of little teases of things that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Particularly a couple of characters that may be coming up on the series.
Okay.
And from Doom Patrol comic lore, and we did, like you said, we got to see things from Vic and Rita's point of view. Mm-hmm. From Jane Patrol, but other than that, yeah, I think that it just the tone of this episode was just completely different from what we had seen so far. It wasn't the like as weird. I mean, it was weird, but it wasn't as like entertaining weird. It was more like just this really odd, almost like an X-Files kind of episode to me.
Yeah, and I really tried not to hold against it that our villain, ate hair. I mean, which is disgusting to begin with. But he wasn't a very interesting villain. At all.
He was more of a comical villain.
Yeah, but he wasn't, when you try to do drama and fail, you can still do a story. When you try to do comedy and fail, it just looks awkward. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll break this down because obviously I want to break this, the various characters down into their segments like we normally do.
Sounds perfect.
And we'll kind of dig deep in a little of why this episode turned out the way it did.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
Yes, very fair.
All right. Before we get into that, though, I want to run down the guest cast for this week. First off, we had Max Martini, who played Alistair, Niles's hunting friend, ally at the beginning of this series, or the beginning of the episode, the one that ultimately falls through the ice at the end. He's notable because if you saw the movie Pacific Rim, that Guillermo del Toro movie, which is awesome, where you had all kinds of cool giant mecha robots. He played a character named Herc Hansen. He was that kind of the father of the father-son duo, the Australian father-son duo in that movie. And so he was a very cool character in that movie. And so it's kind of cool to see him here. He's also been on episodes of 24 and Revenge. So I thought I'd mention that.
Small part on Castle. He is one of those guys, right? There used to be a web page. There still might be, that guy. Yeah. He has that kind of face. He is a very well-known character actor, and so that was good to see him.
Yeah. I really did like him in Pacific Rim, though.
Yeah.
Tommy Snyder, who played the Beard Hunter, a.k.a. Ernest Franklin. He's been in the movies Dumb and Dumber 2. He was on an episode of Veronica Mars and episodes of Arrested Development. So he obviously has a more comedic background. Pisay Pao, an actress I thought was really interesting in this episode. She played the kind of Neanderthal-like Slava, Niles' love interest in this episode. She's been on episodes of Z Nation and NCIS Los Angeles. You probably might recognize her from Z Nation, even though under all that makeup. One bit of casting news that I thought was really interesting, especially that you might find interesting being an old TV fan from back in the day. Joan Van Ark played Mrs. Franklin, the Beard Hunter's mom. She did the voice.
Very nice. I did not know that.
If you're familiar with Joan Van Ark, you probably know her from way back in the 70s as Val Ewing on the Dallas spinoff Knots Landing. She was obviously on Dallas, and then they spun the characters off into Knots Landing, the spinoff series.
Yes, she was married to the black sheep brother. The
black sheep of the Ewing clan.
Yes, the other brother that wasn't
Gary,
Bobby or JR. I think it was Gary. Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I watched Dallas, but I didn't watch Knots Landing.
Yeah.
So, but I figure being from Texas, you might have paid closer attention to that than I have. But Joan Van Ark is kind of she's done a lot of voice work over the years too, and some other comic book series so I want to mention those. She was actually the voice of none other than Jessica Drew, aka Spider-Woman, in the Spider-Woman animated series from back in the 70s, which was it was like around like the really late 70s or early 80s, somewhere in there. But that was very cool. Yeah, once upon a time, Spider-Woman had her own cartoon show back in the day, and she voiced the lead character. She was also on an episode of the Wonder Woman TV series starring Linda Carter.
Oh, very nice.
So I thought that was kind of cool. So she's actually does have some comic book background here, but she's done a lot of vocal work. So it kind of made sense, good choice for playing the Beard Hunter's mom, who I thought was kind of funny in a couple places.
Yes.
April Billingsley, who played the checkout lady, and I use that in quotes, checkout lady.
Yeah.
Who is essentially who turns out to be, of course, an agent from the Bureau of Normalcy. She's been on episodes of Constantine, The Walking Dead, and The Vampire Diaries, so I thought that was interesting. And, of course, we get the return of Alan Tudyk as Mr. Nobody, who's been gone for a couple episodes. Didn't have anything to say that he's been missing for a couple episodes this time out.
So, I'm sorry, I lied, Charles.
Yes.
Mr. Nobody was good in the episode.
Okay, so there is there was at least one thing you liked in the episode.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's something. I guess that's a good start at least.
Yes.
All right. That's fair. All right. Some trivia I want to run down really quickly. Obviously, the Beard Hunter is one character I want to talk about very quickly as far as background, because this story was very, very loosely based off of Grant Morrison's story, The Beard Hunter, from Doom Patrol Volume 2, number 45, back in 1991, with art by Vince Giordano, for all you comics geeks out there. And in that version, in the comic version, the Beard Hunter is recruited not by the Bureau of Normalcy, but by a group called the Bearded Gentlemen's Club of Metropolis. And they want the Beard Hunter to bring back the chief's beard in revenge for the chief calling them lunatics, which they were. And the chief wanted nothing to do with this group, and the group decided to get revenge by sending the Beard Hunter after the chief's beard. The Beard Hunter ends up attacking the chief in the supermarket in the issue. So it's kind of like a one-on-one standoff between the Beard Hunter and the chief, who is crippled, obviously, paralyzed. But the chief takes him out using wiring from a refrigerated display unit and electrifying a sheet of aluminum foil hidden underneath cornflakes that the Beard Hunter steps on. So he kind of gets a shock and knocked out. And the chief just kind of waits for the authorities to show up, eating chocolate bars in the meantime. That's how the issue ends. So if you weren't as impressed with this episode, check out the comic. You might like it better.
Okay.
But highly recommend it. So I just thought I'd mention that before we get started.
Okay.
All right. And obviously we're going to talk about the Beard Hunter more, probably to Jesse's chagrin, but we're going to talk about the Beard Hunter. Topic number 1, though, I'm going to talk about, and I do have a theme this week.
Okay.
So very simple theme, but hopefully effective. Topic number 1, Northern Exposure.
Okay.
And this I want to talk about, obviously I want to talk about Niles and Slava, and we'll throw in Alistair as well. So essentially the Chief's flashback in the Yukon. So Chief, Niles Calder of the North in this episode. In the Yukon, the Northern Yukon Territory, as we find out in 1913, where we have the chief going on an exploratory mission for the Bureau of Oddities after hearing rumors of this creature up there. And he gets this guy named Alistair, who's essentially the hunter there to kind of help possibly fend off attacks from wolves and whatnot as they head up into the Yukon looking for this creature. And obviously, things go awry, and Niles gets separated from Alistair and ends up being taken care of by this rather primitive Neanderthal-like woman named Slava. So, Jesse, as I tread into this trepidatiously, what are your thoughts on this segment?
So, the three people who listen to Sports Radio 1310, The Ticket, will get this joke. Boring! I just did not care. I didn't care whatsoever. The chief trying to talk to him. Oh, I'm not like that. I'm a hunter. And I just need some warmth. I didn't care. They ended up finding romance and he's all happy. I just thought it was truly boring and one of the worst backstories I've ever seen.
Okay. All right. Well, don't hold back.
I won't.
All right.
Yeah, it made no sense.
So you got nothing out of it.
I got nothing out of it. I truly did.
Okay. All right. Well, let me tell you what I got out of this.
Oh, please do.
Okay. So
because Charles, we got an hour to fill.
Exactly.
So if you got nothing,
I did. Yeah. At least I've got something to help fill up that hour. Yes. So I'm not gonna judge you for your opinion because you're perfectly entitled to your opinion, and I respect that, obviously. Yeah. My take on this whole segment, though, Niles, we get this backstory of his connection to the Bureau of Oddities, and it turns into this whole thing of self-discovery, as he mentions in the episode, where he's this educated elite type intellectual, and here he is out in the outback, and a very call of the wild. He's out there. He's in this harsh Canadian element, and in the forest, and he's having to survive. And he ends up they come across this creature in the woods, and there's wolves show up, and while Alistair ends up presumably killed by these wolves at that point, Niles goes off running after seeing the creature, and or actually, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. He's running because of the wolves after Alistair tells him to run, and he falls down this ravine and ends up severely compound fracturing his leg. And obviously he's losing blood, and just as he's starting to fall unconscious, the creature shows up, this big fanged creature, and he passes out. Next thing you know, he wakes up in this cave, and he's paired with this kind of hooded figure. He's not quite sure who's there taking care of him. He wakes up, there's this kind of weird white paste on his leg, and he sniffs at it, and it's all horrible smelling, but it seems to be almost like a natural remedy antibiotic or disinfectant.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you get out of it? Because I saw it, and hang on. I truly cannot stand you telling the story again because I already had to sit through it once.
Well, I'm getting to this. Okay. So bear with me. I'm a writer. I'm setting up the story here. Okay. So with him wounded, this woman takes care of him. Turns out to be this Neanderthal-like woman named Slava. Okay. Mm-hmm. And at first, she's resistant to him. She's just look, okay, I patched you up, but I don't want you sharing my campfire. And he's, here he is from this kind of cultured background. And I know
So why didn't she just kill him then? Why did she heal them if she wasn't going to let him share her fire?
Well, I think there was this interest in him, or like his curiosity, because she had these hunters or the other people, that these dead guys, and they were kind of buried in the snow. And he goes over and he's like, look, he's yelling at her, he's like, look, these men deserve to be buried. And so maybe she just found him interesting. I don't know. We don't get the explanation. So they unbury these bodies. One of them.
That's an inconsistent, right? Like, okay, why are you taking care of him then? Was she going to try to eat him? I mean, that's what I thought.
Well, I mean, we don't know what her reason. The thing is, though, is that if she wanted to kill him, she could have just killed him.
Right.
She could have just slain him and then eaten his, body as meat or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
So obviously there was something about him that she found interesting and worth saving.
Okay.
Now remember also, this character is kind of psychic, as Niles mentions later, that she has these great psychic abilities. So maybe her psychic powers read his mind and what kind of person he was. And maybe she thought he was worth saving. But she didn't know she could trust him, I think.
Yeah.
And so initially she snuffs the campfire, and there's this whole thing. Well, Niles talks her into like dragging one of the bodies out. They take it out to this site where apparently it's like this very ritualistic site. It's got like almost like a Stonehenge type deal in this clearing, and she calls forth, apparently, and this is where Niles is just completely fascinated here, is that during this kind of ritual, she calls forth the fanged monster from before. So she's got some kind of power, and that interests him. So he tries to connect with her, and I think his scientific curiosity kind of kicks in here, and they end up getting, they start connecting. They go out on this lake, and he falls through the lake after she tries to warn him, but they can't communicate with one another because they don't know the other's language. And so he falls through. He gets sick, and he's like, look, you don't want to be around me. I'll just make you sick, or whatever. And she takes care of him, and they grow closer. And so it's almost this like, okay, this curiosity of her on her part develops into this like strange connection they share. And as they connect to one another, Niles decides, hey, I'm going to stay with this woman. I actually have feelings for her, and I'm intrigued by her, and I want to learn more about her. And then, he becomes a hunter himself. So like everything he was railing against at the beginning of the episode, he ends up becoming. And that's what I kind of found interesting about it as a character development here. And it's only when Alistair shows up at the end looking for Slava to bring back to the Bureau of Oddities. And it's this point that Niles realizes, I need to protect her. And not I don't need to protect her from from Alistair. I need to protect her from the world because she's so special. And he's fascinated also because she's immortal, as they hint. And one of the things we've talked about is like, well, how is the chief the same age after all this time? So here it is, 1913. He's pretty much the same age as he is in 2019.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of start of how the chief discovered the secret of immortality here. And so it's going to probably pay off more later on. But this is the kind of these are the kind of hints about how the chief is still immortal, and probably passed on a lot of that immortality to like someone like Crazy Jane or Rita, perhaps. We don't know.
All right, that's fair enough.
So that's kind of my take on this. And like he sacrifices that love to protect her. He like basically says, okay, the only way she's going to stay safe is if like I go back and tell everybody I didn't find anything.
Yeah.
So he gives up his love and goes back and is like, okay, nothing happens. He tells the Bureau of Oddities or whatever that the Bureau of Normalcy at this point that nope, didn't find anything, but my experience, made me stronger and made me realize, okay, who is the true threat out there, whatever monsters there really are. And he's obviously implying they're the monsters.
Yeah.
Not her. So it was a very interesting character study. And ultimately, as we'll talk about in our third segment, Mr. Nobody kind of gets a whiff of this and realizes this is the secret that Niles has been keeping all this time from him. And I want to talk about that later.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where I'm coming from with that.
Okay.
Is that fair?
I respect your opinion. I just don't agree with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't think, like, all that I got out of it, you just like, meh.
Well, and I don't want to have a debate, but your explanation was basically retelling the story.
Well,
hang on. And really what you said is we got to see his backstory. We got to see a little bit of a data on why he might be, how he got to be immortal. He chose giving up his love to go back to keep her safe. Okay. Right. I don't find that interesting.
You don't find that interesting that he gave up his love to protect her?
No, I don't at all.
Okay.
Because they had
you're just
zero. They had
you're
zero
just
chemistry.
You're heartless, aren't you?
Zero chemistry. I think they labored really hard to try to show the chief struggling, and they could have done a lot better way. So, next topic.
Well, all right. This topic number 2, obviously the beard hunter I want to talk about. And I'm sure you got some thoughts on the beard hunter as well. I do. All right. So the beard hunter, to kind of set this up, in the comics, essentially the beard hunter, just kind of as he is here, he's depicted as this complete loser that, he's nuts, and and he has this weird obsession with beards, but at the same time he also has this rather it's essentially like a parody of guys who are way too much into like what's considered macho. And because in here the beard hunter, like he's when we first are introduced to him, he's living in his mom's basement, and on the TV are male models going down a runway, and there's all this grooming stuff, and this kind of hinted this false machismo that's hiding something, basically like suppressing something. And so in the comics, the beard hunter was essentially a parody of the Punisher. He was basically a silly version of the Punisher that instead of going out and tracking down and killing criminals, this guy who also has like a skull, if you notice, on his uniform, like the Punisher, only it has a beard on it. Instead of criminals, he goes out and hunts and kills beards. That's his shtick. It's a parody of the Punisher. And so Morrison, it was just a one-off goof thing in the comic. And so that's what they kind of did here with this. Only they tried to make him a little cooler because once he swallows in that horrible glob of beard hair from the sink of the chief's beard, and then also he gets a hold of Cyborg's, one of Cyborg's beard hairs. He's like somehow connected to the universe and can use that. So again, it's a very offbeat Doom Patrol villain here.
Yeah, he's connected to them, and he can kind of feel their essence, and he knows their thoughts, and they show that when
he's like one with the beard force.
Yeah, and so because of that, he was able to not get touched by Cyborg because he kind of knows what Cyborg's going to do beforehand.
Yeah. It's almost like this weird, like the Force, essentially, this whole connection to the universe. Because he's connected to the Cyborg, he can anticipate Cyborg's moves. Cyborg tries to punch him, and he just kind of weaves and dodges all Neo-like, like Neo in the Matrix. Yeah. And Cyborg can't touch him.
Yeah, and I assume.
So it's just this weird, like, passive way of fighting here.
Yeah, and I guess the idea, right, is that because he's because of the beard gives him his superpowers, he knows. That's very interesting that it was a Punisher parody because I didn't get that at all.
Well, because with all the weapons and just this total like overblown machismo.
Didn't get that at all.
Yeah, you're not big on subtext, I've realized.
No. I mean, I love subtext, but Charles, I'm telling you, there's subtext, and then there's where, the reason you knew this is because you read the comic. Right. I didn't have to see read the Danny the Street comic to understand that character.
Okay.
This is a bad character. Okay. They didn't use him well.
Yeah.
Nothing was accomplished except showing why the place was tore up. We got no Rita and Vic. Now, yes. Something's wrong with Vic. Something's wrong with Vic.
Well, let's talk about Rita.
Moved on that, but we didn't really. I think there could have been a lot better way to do that. This was a really bad. This was the worst villain. Because
So like the whole thing when Ernest is rushing home to get his gear after getting recruited by the Bureau of Normalcy, and they're playing Frank Stallone's song from Far From Over from the 1983 movie Staying Alive. That whole cheesy, remember that cheesy sequel to the Saturday Night Fever? Mm-hmm. You familiar with that at all?
Sure.
Okay, well, that was the song from that, and so it's essentially this cheesiness, this kind of just this really odd way of depicting like manhood in movies and in pop culture and whatnot, and what's considered manly.
And and like I said, if you tell me that's what they were going for, I believe you.
It's a satire, basically.
Yeah. Swing and a miss.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But the after going to the supermarket, and getting kind of henpecked by his mom to go to the supermarket for her, the beard hunter is recruited by the Bureau of Normalcy. That apparently they decided he's like in Taken, a man with a very particular set of skills, and they recruit him even though they know he's just so odd. But in this case, they want him to find Niles to bring him in for questioning. So essentially, he's there to kind of track down the chief for the Bureau of Normalcy.
And see, that's another thing. That's a dumb plot line. Are we supposed to actually think the Bureau of Normalcy is a threat when they're hiring this kind of guy?
Well, they're an odd threat.
Yeah, no, they're not a threat at all.
You have an odd superhero team, and you have an odd threat in the Bureau of Normalcy.
Okay.
An odd group. They're not doing things like traditionally, like you would see on a normal TV show. This is not a normal TV show. It's sometimes it's good. Some of it's going to be weird and not make sense.
I would not be joining you every week if this had been the first episode.
All right. Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. So let's talk about Rita and Vic.
Okay.
All right. Now we get the flip side of Jane Patrol, which we talked about last week. Which is obviously a much better episode and hit every home run for me, at least.
Yeah, and that there was a lot of subtlety,
right.
And there was a lot of subtext about the different characters back and forth.
Right.
I mean, so this is it. I don't know.
I mean, it's obviously, I agree with you. It's not nowhere near as good as Jane Patrol was, but it was just its own thing.
Yeah. I think they tried something.
It's a different type of story.
Yeah. I think they tried something and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hold that against the rookie writer, because he may have he could try again.
Yeah. While essentially Cliff and Jane and obviously the negative spirit are kind of occupied, Rita's trying to ask Vic kind of well, what do we really know about the negative spirit? And she starts trying to talk to it, but it doesn't obviously respond to her. And at that point, Rita's kind of panicking a little bit, going, this wouldn't have happened if the chief was around. And Vic's going, well, that's why we need to find him, because he's not around. It's up to us. And they kind of bring up once again, they start trying to, as Vic tries to explain Danny the Street to Rita, and he brings up the comic book once again. And this is that copy of My Greatest Adventure number 51 from 1961 that we talked about when we talked about Danny Patrol. That's this comic book that Danny the Street gives Vic at the end of the episode. And obviously for a very important reason. And while flipping through it, Vic doesn't get it. He's just like, okay, this obviously has to be a clue, but I'm not seeing it. So Rita grabs this and starts flipping through it, and she goes that hunky muscle man from that normally appears in advertisements in the comic book is missing. It's almost like, she says, it's almost like he just walked right out of the comic book. And if you kind of paused the video and you were able to look at it on your computer, you could see that the advertisement was for Mental O's Sugar Flakes. So obviously, if you're a Doom Patrol comic fan, as I am, and I realize we're getting deep in the woods here again, but they're setting up this character named Flex Mentallo, this man of muscle mystery character that was featured. He was kind of introduced. I'll give you a little background. He was this character that was first introduced by Morrison in issue 35 as a member of this guy who was on Danny the Street. Okay. And he's this kind of almost like a homeless looking kind of guy. And he ultimately reveals that he's the man of muscle mystery, and he gets his appearance tidied up. And essentially what he's revealed as is, a parody of those old Charles Atlas muscle guy ads that from comic books back in the day. You probably remember seeing them.
Sure.
That kind of the man that made the
sand thrown in his face, I remember that.
You got the 98-pound weakling getting the crap kicked out of him, and then he takes Charles Atlas's course, and he comes back as this big muscle guy. Mm-hmm. And it's he has this thing, hero of the beach, and he saved the day from this bully on the beach by kicking his ass and punching him out. And so Flex Mentallo is essentially a parody of that character that stands there in those big leopard skin briefs. Mm-hmm. And Morrison turned that that insult that made a man out of that guy. Well, Morrison was so fascinated with that, he kind of turned it into an actual comic book character called Flex Mentallo.
A real-life Stretch Armstrong, so to speak, right?
Kind of, but he doesn't have Stretch Armstrong powers. Okay. He's just he's got weird, he can do all kinds of, he's got super strength or, telekinesis or something because of his muscle powers. And so, again, it's more of a kind of a parody a little bit. But they're obviously teasing that character, so stay tuned.
Well, see, I bet that would be exciting for you because you know that comic. So yes, that I'm sure was something cool for you to see.
Exactly. So that's kind of my point, is that, I got more out of it, obviously, than you did, because of reading the comics, I kind of get where what they're setting up here.
But see, they could have set that up without Hair Boy showing up.
Well, I think there's a reason for that too. And you mean the Beard Hunter guy? Yeah. Well, that's again, it's a character from the Doom Patrol comics. They featured him.
Yeah.
You know, the guy, one of the characters that you never thought would get an episode of TV ever. Well, here he is. This show just does, like, they don't care. Like they're gonna like adapt all the stuff that you don't think is adaptable, and they're throwing it out there. Sometimes it sticks, or in this case, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, fair enough.
But so they're obviously teasing that character, and the Beard Hunter, they face him, and Vic is obviously having problems. You talked about that. That his operating system, Grid, who, remember, I told you to pay attention to, Grid's giving him more problems. He's activating his hand cannon because he views the Beard Hunter as a threat, and that apparently the host isn't capable of dealing with this threat. So Grid has decided, hey, I'm going to take over your body and take care of the threat myself. So Grid is essentially becoming more active, shall we say.
Yeah.
And that's obviously going to get worse. So, and I'm sure that's probably going to be one of the reasons why we see relating to Jane's painting, I'm guessing, is because of Grid. Okay. So that's my prediction. I'm going to call my shot right here.
I like it.
Okay, so stay tuned for that.
Good.
So I thought that was kind of important that they kind of are setting that up as well. They're setting up some things probably for the season finale payoffs, I'm guessing.
Okay.
So I just so even though they may not be as obvious right now, just be patient.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not giving up on the show. I'm just saying I just didn't think it was a very good episode.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. And the Beard Hunter, obviously, Vic's not able to touch him, and with the whole problem with his hand cannon, the Beard Hunter kind of declares victory. Only he ends up turning up at the very end of the episode, where rather enigmatically, he goes to this mysterious location, and he enters through this door across from a sign that says, "No dolls in the dressing room, please." And he goes down into this completely black room with a white staircase. He goes down all the way down this white staircase, and he leaves a message for his mom saying he's been tracking Niles' beard, and he says he's close. Okay, so he gets down there. It's like a small tunnel, and at the far end of the tunnel is this really creepy button-eyed doll version doppelganger of the Chief, kind of like something out of the movie Coraline, if you remember that movie.
Yes, I do.
Based on the Neil Gaiman novel, young adult novel. And he is basically acting in this high-pitched voice if he's come to play with him, and he likes the Beard Hunter's costume. And then all of a sudden, the Beard Hunter hears this roaring sound. He turns around, and it's that big fang creature from before.
Yeah.
And it screams and drops his flashlight. It's like, what happened? What just happened here? So, what do you think happened to the Beard Hunter there? Or do you just not care at all?
I do. My hope is he died.
Okay.
A painful death, so we never have to hear from him again.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't think at all.
Okay, so you didn't care about what's this creepy doll version of the Chief, and what's all this? You just didn't care.
I could care less. And what's sad is, often I will watch this Doom Patrol late on a Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I was watching it, I was wide awake. And
You're wide awake, and yeah,
just like, this is a bad episode.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it left me with no questions. As far as I'm concerned, and this may come back and bite me, but my guess, you could. In fact, I promise, if I ever rewatch this season, I will skip this episode.
Okay, well, that's fair.
And I think there's nothing. They did nothing to gain anything on telling the story.
Okay. Well, hopefully something will happen later on to change your mind.
Okay.
Okay. We'll find out.
Okay.
Now let's talk about a third and final topic. By the way, the topic number 2, the Bearded Hunter, that was Hunter.
Okay.
So we had Northern Exposure and Hunter. I forgot to mention that. Topic number 3, Lost Girl. So we had Northern Exposure, Hunter, and Lost Girl. The theme, obviously, is our
Canadian TV shows.
TV shows, yes.
Okay.
This I want to talk about is Niles and Mr. Nobody.
Okay.
So this kind of like through this flashback, at the very end of the flashback, that after Niles makes his report to the Bureau of Normalcy, he gets applause from the Bureau, and then all of a sudden you hear the slow hand clapping of Mr. Nobody. And then from there we're realizing that, this was essentially Mr. Nobody diving deep into Niles' memories and coming across this rather interesting and possibly important information that Niles has been hiding Slava all this time. And Mr. Nobody wants to know, where's the girl? And apparently she's very important to Mr. Nobody for some reason. And I'm guessing presumably because of her immortality.
Yeah, I assume that, though it appears Mr. Nobody is already immortal.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm not sure why it's important.
Well, what if somebody else is looking for the immortality?
Yeah, could be. We'll see.
But all right, I'll just put that out there.
Okay.
What I find interesting is like that Mr. Nobody can go through rummaging around through the chief's memories, but he can't get that secret out of him. So somehow the chief is able to keep that from him. Mm-hmm. Not quite sure how, but maybe it's a hand wave. But somehow he can't do that. But apparently the chief is adamant about not telling him this, and he makes the comment. And I want to get your thoughts on this. He doesn't care what Mr. Nobody does to the Doom Patrol. He's not going to give Mr. Nobody the satisfaction of breaking him. So he's just like, go ahead and do what you want to the Doom Patrol. I'm going to keep this secret. I'm not telling you. So he's obviously got reasons for that. And what do you think of him willing to sacrifice his team for that secret?
That's, what little bit we know, that's so the chief.
Yeah, it's very consistent.
We very established that early when they visited the original Doom Patrol, kind of in their old folks' home, and he's ignored them, and Jane was all upset about that. So it's just
he sees him as disposable.
Yeah, and he has a big ego.
I'll find some other ones, like if they get killed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how's it here? That and this is after Mr. Nobody even goes, hey, look, all you have to do is just tell me where the girl is, and all this goes away. You get to go back home. Your group is safe. Everybody's good. I just want to know where this girl is. And the chief won't give her up at all. Mm-hmm. So obviously because he still feels something for her. And we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, okay, we'll see.
And I'm kind of wondering if, there's a child involved.
Okay.
That he's probably trying to protect, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Put that out there. So like I said, there's things that I got out of this episode. I'm sorry you didn't get more out of it but that's okay.
Yeah. And hey, if we end up saying, "Oh my goodness, now I understand,"
yeah.
I'll eat crow. But at this point,
that's all right.
Don't see that happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing that you don't have anything else to talk about this episode.
I do not. It is.
Okay.
I just didn't. I didn't find it entertaining.
It fell flat.
Yeah, very flat is a good word. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Cool.
And I'm guessing you don't have any favorite lines of the episode.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. The end.
The end. The end was your favorite part of the episode.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I actually do have some favorite lines.
Good.
I thought there were some very funny lines in this. Mostly a lot because with the beard hunter and his mom. One of the lines was Mrs. Franklin's yelling down to Ernest in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "We're out of lean cuisine." And Ernest goes, "I no longer require lean cuisine for sustenance, Mother. I maintain my physique through high-calorie ketogenic diet and mental focus." So I thought that was funny. This kind of like slovenly, overweight guy is like, "Well, hey, I have this great physique." It's like, no, you don't. You're just completely delusional.
Yeah. See, I didn't find that charming or funny. I just went kind of, you
didn't find it funny that he was this big loser thought he was way more important than he was.
No.
Okay. All right. Another scene was in the supermarket that I liked was Ernest and the checkout lady, where Ernest goes, "Who the F are you?" And I'm censoring here. The checkout lady goes, "Try the United States effing government, Bureau of Normalcy." Ernest goes, "I'm familiar with your work." And the checkout lady looks at him for a moment and goes, "No, you're not." And Ernest finally admits, "No, I'm not." So I thought it was fine. Another great line I thought between Ernest and his mom, where Ernest yells upstairs, "Mom, where are my shuriken?" The throwing stars.
Yes.
And his mom goes, "Check the dishwasher." And Ernest goes, "I told you they're hand wash only." So essentially, Ernest is like every internet troll that's out there that lives in his mom's basement and is a loser.
So,
thinks he's a badass.
Do you remember Felicity Day's internet series about gaming?
Felicia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what one you're talking about. I'm blanking
and everyone talked about how amazing it was.
Yeah.
And it was a parody.
Yeah.
And I watched it. All I could see is the mom abandoning her kids.
The guild.
Yeah. The mom abandoning her kids, worrying about the game.
Yeah.
I didn't think was funny.
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
She was a horrible mom.
I'm just saying that's the why. Yeah. I don't need to see a horrible mom in a comedy. And that's like, this guy is a loser. I don't need to see that. I don't think that humor is funny.
So I'm guessing you don't watch a lot of Adult Swim cartoons.
No, I don't.
That's probably I think that's the difference right here.
Yeah, that's not my taste.
It's just not your taste in humor.
I don't like Will Ferrell movies. I don't think they're funny.
Right.
And so
some of them aren't funny.
Lots of movie. I just I'm going. He's pathetic. He's yelling at his mom. He's not interesting. I mean, okay, what a cliche. We've got a fat loser living in his mom's basement. Okay, that's such a cliche. It's not anything interesting. This show is better than that.
Yeah. Well, what it is, it's absurdist humor. It's pointing out the humor of the absurd, the mundane, the like loser, just the like kind of looking at the Larry David Show. Mm-hmm. Where he's he's kind of like this nebbish loser,
right?
And and there's humor in that.
There is, because that's funny and well written.
Okay.
Yelling at your mom that she puts your throwing stars in the dishwasher when you wash your own dishes, kid.
Yeah. Well, the fact that these shuriken, which are used by ninjas, ending up in like his mom's dishwasher. You don't find that funny and absurd at all. Okay.
I don't at all.
Okay. All right. So this is just more of a like what you find funny kind of thing. This is the difference here, I think.
And a bad story. Okay. I mean, yeah, it wasn't funny. It wasn't entertaining. It did not move the plot ahead. I'm going to give it 5 out of 10 just to be generous. Okay. And I'm not even going to give it a something is how bad I think of this episode. Okay. I'm just giving it, I hated this episode.
Obviously. Yeah. All right. Well, welcome back, Captain Grumpy.
Yes, indeed. So how about you? What would you give it?
All right. Well, I guess I'll skip the rest of my quotes.
Please.
We're running long on
No, I'm saying please do not give them because they're horrible.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. My episode rating is 8 out of 10 bushy beards.
You are kidding me, Charles.
Yeah.
You giving this episode an 80%?
8. Yeah, I am.
God.
I am, because for one thing, I was really fascinated by the Chief's story, and like I was invested in the fact that he fell in love and is doing all this to protect, even though it's this hairy creature, this hairy woman. Maybe it's just like I'm not so hung up on looks, but I appreciated the love story in that, and the fact that it's kind of driving his real secret motivation here.
After 5 years of podcasting, it's like I don't even know you at all. Just picking at you with love, Charles. I am so happy you liked it. I really thought you were going to give it. I thought you were going to give it a 7. I thought you were going to give it a 7.
I actually was going to give it a 7, but after going through it again, and I was like, well, maybe this episode's better than I thought it was. So I give it an 8. I bumped it up.
Good for you.
Just out of spite. No, I'm just kidding.
I should give it a 4 then. Because after you talk about it, I hated it worse than I thought.
But 8 bushy beards.
So, okay, we've got to have someone. All
right. So
say, are they on Charles' side or Jesse's side?
So
we want to hear that, right?
Or if you got your own side, that's cool too. I'm cool with that. Now, I don't have any Titans Tower news, so let's just go right into we do have some feedback from Holly from Wisconsin this week.
Yay.
So welcome back, Holly. She's playing catch-up, as it turns out.
Okay.
So she kind of has a little bit of quick thoughts on Jane Patrol from last week, which she didn't write in for, and also on Hair Patrol this week.
Oh, good.
So here's Holly's thoughts on this. Hey, Charles and Jesse. Got so busy last week that I didn't have time to send in feedback for the Jane Patrol. I'll keep my thoughts on that one brief. It was nice to see most of all of Jane's other personalities and that they were all banding together to protect her, and I really, really hate Jane's dad. Well, you're really, really supposed to, because he's horrible.
Yes, absolutely.
He's a horrible excuse for a human being, and you should hate him. And I'd be disappointed if you didn't hate him, because I certainly do. He's definitely deserving of your hatred. As for Hair Patrol, interesting character in the Beard Man. I think she means the Beard Hunter. I also like the fact that we got more backstory on Niles and his past adventures. Still no love lost between him and Mr. Nobody. These episodes didn't disappoint at all, and I'm so glad I gave Doom Patrol a try. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Well, you know what? That makes me happy. First off, thank you, Holly, for giving it.
Yes, thank you for writing in and checking back in and catching up. It's always great to hear from you, and thanks even more for kind of siding me with me a little bit on that one.
Because Charles needs a little love.
So see, I'm not the only one.
I did want to give a shout out. Holly also sent a feedback to Small Council Matters. So it was very cool to see her give a feedback on that as well. That was very nice.
I can do that too.
Yeah, so that was very cool. Yes, you should. I would love to read your thoughts on that. That, you know what? It makes me happy because I want Doom Patrol to be successful. Yep. I want people to love it. So
actually, a lot of the reactions I saw, because I clicked through the Hair Patrol hashtag, they seem pretty posive about the episode.
I am glad.
That's why I was kind of surprised. Like, well, Jesse really hated this episode.
That is great news to know, because I like to know that I'm in the minority.
I'm not trying to paint you as the outsider here.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't mean to make you feel like an outsider. Now, if I do, I apologize. But,
no, not at all.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion. It's okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's okay that if Jesse doesn't like it, and it's okay if I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
No big deal. Everybody's entitled to their opinion on this one.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. All right. But thank you, Holly. We definitely appreciate it, as always.
Absolutely.
If you want to be like Holly, and please write in. Let us know whose side of the debate, of the Hair Patrol debate, you've come out on. Or
we need that. Yes.
Or is there a third side that we're completely missing, both of us? Please write to us at TitanTalkCast@gmail.com. That's TitanTalkCast@gmail.com. Please do that. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll be glad to read your email on the air, just like we did here with Holly. Otherwise, you can reach us at Titan Talkcast on Twitter. That's at Titan Talkcast. Or you can reach us on the Facebook at Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast. Obviously, we'd love to get some more likes there. Like to be able to get enough likes so that we can start awarding top fans.
Yeah,
like all the cool websites are doing these days. But you have to have like 2,000 likes or something to be able to do that. As I checked into it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So yeah, if we could get those up, we'd start doling those things out like candy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be a top fan, let's we need to boost up those like totals. Please do so if you're not already. We definitely appreciate it. Or please do that on Twitter as well, because that helps people find us. And also, please go to iTunes and rate and review us. We definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, right now we're still at 13 ratings.
Okay, well,
and 7 reviews.
Thank you, all the people that have sent in reviews on that. And if otherwise, if you're so inclined, you use iTunes.
Yeah,
I definitely appreciate yours as well, and hopefully you're enjoying us here.
Yes, on
even though we kind of bicker about Hair Patrol.
Yes, speaking of, a great podcast for all things DC by Holly Mac 79.
Yeah.
5 stars. Charles and Jesse are a great team with their DC discussions. Always an enjoyable listen, no matter what show and episode they are talking about for the week. Aw, I'm going to blush.
That's very sweet.
It is very sweet. Thank you, Holly.
All right, you're our MVP for the week, Holly.
Absolutely.
All right. Definitely appreciate you. Otherwise, Jesse, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Well, you can tell me how wrong I am by sending me a tweet at Jesse Jackson DFW.
I'll like and retweet it if you do.
Yes, you will. I also can be reached on Facebook at Jesse Jackson from Louisville, Texas. We, as we talked about, we'd love to see some people. I may try to do a poll on our Facebook page to say, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay.
Yes. You can hear me, as we talked about. Small Council Matters is the Game of Thrones podcast that I'm on. Our third episode of the season. We had a preseason episode 1, episode 2 should be out shortly. And
catch up on those.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We've had a good time. 40 Days of Bruce is over, so I'm back to just interviewing Set Listing Bruce. I'm interviewing Bruce Springsteen fans from around the world. And as we talked about, we're excited about Bruce putting out a new record. Charles.
Yep. Yeah, you'll probably get another 50 episodes out of that?
Exactly. So Charles, how about yourself?
As for me, obviously you reach me on the Twitter at Charles Skaggs or at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. We definitely appreciate that. Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. And my blog of geeky things. Come on.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Titan Talk, including Titans news, Doom Patrol news, any kind of actually posting some stuff on Swamp Thing recently. The first trailer for that came out. Did you happen to see the trailer for that, by the way?
I have not seen that yet.
It's very, very interesting. It's
okay.
Obviously has a very horror-flavored. James Wan, the guy behind Aquaman, is producing this series, and it has he comes from a very big horror background. So it's got a very good horror flavor to it a little bit, and kind of digging that.
You'll also have one of your patented spoiler episodes of the new Avenger movie out.
Yeah,
soon.
Avengers Endgame. Obviously, I'm gonna go see that tomorrow. Gonna try and hurry up and get that review out because I know it's gonna be a lot of people looking for that one, and so I'll get that up soon on Damn Good Coffee. I'll try my best. It's gonna be obviously a 3-hour movie. It's gonna be a lot to review, so I gotta type my fingers off. But hopefully it'll be worth it, and hopefully everybody will enjoy that.
So, by the way, as we go back to an Avengers discussion, if you Google "when do I go for a bio break," they actually have a couple of suggestions of what's happening on the screen is a good time to go. And
pee before the movie, you pee after. It's that simple.
Some of us old people can't go 3 hours, Charles, especially with our 32-ounce Diet Coke and popcorn. But anyway,
there you go. Just kind of dial that back to maybe a 16-ouncer.
I am looking forward to talking to you. We may have to spend a few minutes talking about this Sunday.
We probably will. Because it's just in a few days, so we'll be talking about that.
Exactly.
Also on Damn Good Coffee, my other podcasts that I talk about here on Southgate Media, including, of course, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, that where Jesse and I are going to be talking here in a few days. We're going to be talking Dalek, the first appearance of the Daleks in the new era, in the Christopher Eccleston era back in 2005. Going to be talking about that, and where Jesse gets to talk about the Daleks again, his favorite subject.
Well, I won't be grumpy about that one. That's a good one. We picked the episode. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I gave you the choice,
Yes,
so
you did.
You chose that one, so we're going to talk about that. And recently we had Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, my Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast co-host, on just recently here before this one, where we talked the greatest show in the galaxy.
Yeah, so that was a really good discussion. Also, a couple weeks before that, Christine, who is a fellow member of the Small Council Matters podcast, was on. She's been on a couple times. I really like her. Yeah. You guys, she has a good discussion. I really like her.
We have pretty good chemistry, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think we do pretty well, and I hope Christine thinks so, because I just enjoy talking to her.
I think she's fun.
She's got some great insights, and I love that.
Yes, she does.
Great conversationalist.
Absolutely.
And obviously Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast, where I talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, et cetera, with Zan. So if you enjoyed us on Next Stop Everywhere, please check us out on Ghostwood. We definitely appreciate that.
So based on your prior knowledge of the comics, and watching the trailer, are they rebounding next week, Charles? Do I have something special to look forward to?
Well, next time on Titan Talk, we're going to talk Francis Patrol. I'm not sure what the Francis is referring to. We'll find out.
Okay.
And that's Frances, Francis, and not Francis. And the premise of this one is, while Larry pays a visit to his long-lost love, Cliff and Rita travel to Gator Country to reconnect with his daughter. So we're going to finally get to see the long-awaited Cliff meeting Clara.
Knock on wood.
We'll see how that goes. Yeah. At least he's not going alone. He's got Rita with him, riding shotgun. So hopefully, and also Vic worries about his operating systems some more.
Okay,
so
good.
Obviously the grid thing's going to ramp up, and again, if you read Jeff Johns' Justice League, you probably know where that's going.
Absolutely. Well, good. Right. Well,
so that's
good or bad.
As we head into the third part of our Doom Patrol first season.
So good or bad, painful or enjoyable.
Hopefully Jesse will give it much higher than a 5 next week.
Yeah, remember I moved it to a 4 just out of spite.
Okay, hopefully more than a 4.
Charles and I are here, and we're going to walk you through it. You can count on us together.
9, so you're good there.
Okay.
All right. So even though we're picking on each other, I still love you, Jesse.
I love you, Charles. I did want to say I knew that you would have a different take on it.
Yep.
And so I was looking forward to it a lot.
That's okay. That's good because we both had two perspectives. So we kind of give everybody a little best of both worlds, hopefully.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Good and bad. All right.
Yes.
So everybody come on back next week. We're going to talk Francis Patrol. We'll hopefully find out what that means. And we'll see you next time right here on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.